everyone, welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Sin Lagos, and today I will be your host. Also joining me today is Courtney Swift-Copeland. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Sin. How are you?
Good, good. We're going to get started in just a minute. Before we get started, I just want to say hello to the chat. We have here Robert, Wade, we have Penny. Hi, everyone. Remember to join the chat and ask us questions along the way. We're here live, so this is a great opportunity to ask Courtney and her incredible, talented team questions. So definitely jump on in. And also join us on our
Recording in
beautiful community
progress.
on YouTube and on Instagram if you haven't already. We're going to be posting all these live streams for you to restream and also to keep up with the latest streams. Okay, Courtney, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also the project that we're going to be working on?
Sure thing. So I'm Courtney. This is Salt Paper Studio. We're located in Rock Hill, South Carolina. We are a commercial photography studio. We do everything from food to lifestyle, set build, photography, all products under the sun. So today I'm joined by Alexis Howard, who is our post-production manager. She's going to be doing our Photoshop section after I execute a Lightroom live shoot with our stylist, Priscilla Browning. Priscilla, say hi. She's back here. She's going to be styling a pink Prosecco prickly pear margarita for Margarita Monday. At least that's what we're pretending it is. I know you guys on the West Coast, it's only like 10 o'clock.
That's so exciting. Yeah.
But it's 1:30 here.
We're all over the world, really. Yeah.
And somewhere it's 5 o'clock. So I think this is appropriate.
Or it's a mocktail for somebody somewhere too.
Yes, exactly. So I guess I could jump right into this. I'm going to be using Lightroom. I'm going to show you how we execute a live shoot. So thank you. I see my screen. That's great. So basically, this is a shoot from yesterday. We did a little bit of a pre-light. This is what I'm going to be executing today. This should be kind of fun. So to start, I'm going to close this and I am going to show you how we start our, yes, I really want to quit because I want to start again. I'm going to skip the backup this time. Okay, so Photoshop, Lightroom Classic. We're going to open up and we're going to start a new catalog. We're going to call this Pink Drink.
What does it have in it?
So this one has tequila. It has a Himalayan pink salt rimmer. This flower, I'm not sure exactly what it is. I know it's non-toxic. And
I was thinking pomegranates or cranberry.
Yeah, it's
for the
actually
color.
a prickly pear, which has a deep red filling, which is really beautiful. See, should get us started here. New catalog. And of course, tequila.
Of course.
Tequila in there. Okay, so we're going to do a tethered capture, which on our promo, I said we're doubling down on our live initiative. And that's because, when you're tethering, everything's live. So the session name you'll want to start out with, we called ours Pink Drink. So we're going to do the same here. I'm going to keep, for file management, I'm going to keep this one word. We're going to keep it in a session. So it'll be called, whoops, Pink Drink, not Pink Drink. Okay. And we will be metadata I have saved and I can show you, I call it food photography, our settings, and we can edit those presets. So the reason you might do this is so that whenever anyone pulls this online, they have, your information. It looks like nothing is in this one. Hold on. See, food photography. Here we go. So I just have a few things filled out that I did before the live cast. Obviously, you can dive in as deep as you'd like to have as much information in here as possible. Basically, this will safeguard you, for copyright initiatives. This is one of the great things about Lightroom. This applies to all of the images that I'm going to shoot today. So I don't have to worry about doing one by one later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's fantastic. So let's just say everything's in here, which it's not, but let's say everything is in here. There's a way for people to get a hold of us. I have my name in there, our city, excuse me. And let's say we're done. Keywords, I want to keyword this so that I can find everything later. I may shoot thousands of images per session. So it's really a benefit to be able to just search by keywords. So let's say I can do cocktails, pink, margarita, and let's say Adobe, because I know that I did this with you guys.
So setting yourself up for success, essentially.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so this tethered capture, this allows us to shoot directly to, I'm shooting with this Canon. We've already set up our lights. I'll just go ahead and fire off a test shoot. I have, obviously this is way too exposed, because if we can switch to screen 2, I can show you what Priscilla is working on here. I can explain to you how live view works. Let's see, go to live. Okay, so Lightroom has this. Okay, there you go, guys. I'm sorry. Okay, so one of the great things about Lightroom is I can work with my clients to kind of approve things as we go. They can see everything happen in real time, and there's less room for confusion later. So you
it's
know,
a collaborative.
It's very collaborative. So Priscilla is right now placing this cocktail in frame so that I, as the photographer, can go over there and frame up. I can make sure the light is okay. I can test everything out. And then she and I can work together to make sure everything's looking good as we go. So as she styles that, I can show you, let's see, I'm going to go back to screen 1. And I can show you.
And this entire setup is that window view is something that y'all set up, right, in the background too.
So we do a lot of
it looks so natural
design. Yeah, if we do our job correctly, it does. So this, I'm obviously way back here so that I can show you our set and you know, kind of how we operate. What you can't see unless I were back on the opposite wall, or like the 5 lights that we have set up. You get a little bit of a view of this stucco wall that we built in studio. It's foam and it's wood burned, and it's got, you know, it's covered in stucco and then painted the appropriate color. We have a gobo casting a shadow on the front, so that feels pretty natural as we get closer to the scene. Yeah, we've got lights coming through the back to mimic sunlight. But yeah, I mean, Priscilla, do you need a lot of tequila in that, or yeah, you need a lot of tequila? So are you using dragon fruit?
I am.
Okay. Okay, so she's using a dragon fruit garnish.
Okay.
But we'll let Priscilla dive in a little bit.
Clever Devlin. I think Clever Devlin guessed it right. Dragon fruit on the chat.
Nice. Good job. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to actually, if we can go back to screen 2 and a live view, I will show you guys how I kind of adjust the camera and work through some test shots. Is everyone seeing screen 2? Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Should be moving. Any luck? Okay. Great. Okay. I'm going to move the camera around for a sec, and you guys don't get dizzy.
Look in one spot, just in case.
Yeah. Like you're on a ride with us today.
Yeah.
I know this is a little different than normal, so thanks for bearing with us here. I just thought this might be kind of exciting to see.
Yeah, it definitely is very intriguing. I think It's a
something
process
different.
where it's very demystifying to that process that we never often see. We always see the end result or the prior to, but this is in itself, I know it's very involved to just take one single photo, especially when it comes to things that are still photography, food photography. People have different approaches for it. I was actually really curious if like your mocktail had a different type of coloring to kind of allude to that color for the photo, even though it's not the actual ingredients.
Yeah. So what we found is that, you know, once we shoot, we want more light to come through the back, and that will kind of wash the color. So that's
Mm.
when I'll get into the editing process, as I can show you guys how great it is to be able to just you know, edit those as we go, amplify that, kind of turn up different colors.
Yeah, we used to have I used to also photograph hospitality, and we used to
Oh,
add
great.
salt to the beer to
Yeah.
make that little foam every time it would disappear, it would just kind of go away as we're shooting. But those little tricks that really help out in making it appear really fresh.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun to watch Priscilla work and see, all the little tricks that she adds.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a test shot. You want to step to the side? So if we go, I believe we're back on screen 1 potentially. We can see where we're sitting right now. So as she styles, we'll go in and we'll move the camera around. And I believe though that this may be a good spot for us to start developing a little bit. I can make some tweaks while she's working. So if you see, I like to go down this line here, and I may need Alexis to jump in for me. Go into our develop tab. Lost my develop tab, Alexis.
It already looks like we're in a summery beach somewhere.
Yeah. Here we go. We're back. Okay. So I like to go down this list here. If you notice right away, I feel like these whites are a little blown out. I like how they're feeling over here. I like how it's feeling in the back. So I don't want to change any of that. So then this is just kind of an adjustment that we're going to be doing in camera. So I'm going to take these highlights and just pull them down a bit. And you can see that salt gets a little, see how that works out. Get a little more definition in the salt.
Yeah, you can see more detail.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, less when you over expose, there's no recovering, and being able to do this the way that you're approaching it seems like, okay, you can be more careful with the details of the final photo.
Right. And Adobe has this great thing where Lightroom will show you what's overexposed and what's underexposed.
Okay.
And so, we've got this, we're so fortunate as studio photographers to be able to go through and kind of craft everything in camera the way we'd like. So we don't do a ton of heavy lifting in post, but there are definitely opportunities. We do a lot of cleanup, which you'll see later. We might do some color manipulation, a little bit of, we'll amplify these greens as we go as well. And some of these pinks. So I can come in here and show you, I like to play with the vibrance. And if you go too far, you can see exactly what this does. So obviously this is going to turn the color way, way up. You can play with your saturation, which is going to really bump everything. I think I like to keep that where it is.
We have Wade saying it's studio magic, and Robert
studio magic.
Saying, hi, Grace. Yeah, we
Hi,
have
guys.
go salt and pepper. I want to say salt and pepper so much.
Yeah, I know. So we started out, it's funny, we started really doing a lot of food photography. Now we do a lot of different things. So we thought that salt, pepper, being an analog, salt paper was a very analog, it's a process in photography where you put the sodium chloride covered piece of paper and you put the negative on and then you let the sun do the exposure. So we wanted this back to business approach to photography. And so we named it after an analog process. However, we did a lot of food photography at the time. So we thought salt paper was a little reminiscent of salt and pepper. And so it was kind of fun, but people still call
clever. And it's memorable.
Yeah, thank you. They still call the studio asking for salt and pepper. So
yeah,
it's okay.
Okay.
I did alone. I did it to myself. It's all right.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, great. So let's see, now that we've made those little tweaks, let's see where Priscilla is now. I see she's got this beautiful flower in here. What is that flower called, Priscilla? What is it? Abomelade? Bromelade. It's in the pineapple family. It's a bromelade. That's kind of fun.
We're definitely going towards the Caribbean.
Yes.
Vibe. Yeah, okay.
All right. Ready? Test. Okay. So I can see now that I'm obviously missing the top of this flower. So I need to go back to screen 2 and I will adjust my ISO again, which lets in more light in the dark. And I can see through here what we'll need to do. Okay.
Okay, cool. So as we wait to see how Courtney develops this image, I just want to share with you guys, if you haven't heard yet, of our very own podcast in the making. If you haven't heard about it, I mean, it's really, really awesome. It's hosted by Adobe's Teresa Au, and she has like the coolest conversations with people who make this rapidly expanding creator economy. It's really, really insightful. It's like an insider view on our industry, and it's just amazing. So definitely check that out if you have a chance. And then we have Clever Devlin saying bromelade plans. Excited.
Great.
I love Salt's Paper's work. They're such good people too. That's a good vote of confidence.
Nice. I like that person. So Priscilla, fun fact about the way she styles and the way we try to style on set is she tries to use, actually, primarily she uses things that are non-toxic and or edible. So when she was doing research for this drink, she realized that this flower is non-toxic. You can actually, should probably not eat it, but she did wrap it in plastic at the bottom. So this entire thing is consumable. Fun fact, if you so choose. Okay. Just this again.
Yeah, I think that there's always that question of whether the final photo was an exact replica of the thing that you're going to be served. Because I think we've always seen that the tricks of the trade and things like that, which are fascinating, but sometimes I think it's also interesting to shoot the actual product as is and find those challenges and work around them, however they may be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Like if they give you something that is hard to photograph, then you resort to maybe different lighting equipment and things like that are going to help the color. But yeah, salt is not that bad of a trick of a trade, but if you start adding like non-edible things, can be weird.
Sure. Yeah. Let's see, we are back on screen 1. So it's a good time to just acknowledge, I guess, sometimes the camera and the tether cord will disconnect from the computer, and that I do not feel is a program thing. We've used several programs, and it's just it happens. I'm sure someone can, if anyone wants to weigh in and let me know
compatibility, maybe
if they've figured that out, that would be great. But from all the forums for the last like 10 years that we've been reading, it is just common practice. Sometimes
it's almost like it goes to sleep, right?
Yeah.
So it goes dormant and then you have to reset it. But if you're shooting and multiple photos, it probably won't be an issue.
Yes, when you're shooting really fast, or you're shooting, repetitively, you definitely have less of that happening. Let's see, now we're blurry here. You know, it's really interesting. If it occasionally feels like this is a slow process, but it really is more just a very strategic process. And putting all this time in up front really allows you to not have the work on the back end. If we could go back to screen one, you guys can see what I just shot here. And this is interesting too. So we did all of these, we did some adjustments on, let's see, on this guy, our first shot, because I did not change my develop settings to same as previous. They did not carry over.
Okay.
What you can do is copy those, and this you go Shift Option C, Shift Command C, and copy all of these settings if these are the ones that you prefer to copy. And then you can just Command V, which should apply those settings to that capture. So now we've gotten ourselves to the point where, okay, this is Priscilla is probably ready for me to start shooting and tell her what I'd like to change. Is that accurate? Okay. So what I'd like to do now is kind of go in and make a few more dramatic adjustments, just some light things before I start shooting handheld, and then we maybe come up with some really fun shots.
Awesome. It's exciting.
Let's see. Yeah. So this clarity is really fun. I know back when I was in school a while ago at this point, the high pass filter was a big thing back, in the early 2000s. And if you were to, if you were to really go crazy with this, you could. I like to just keep it I like to keep it under 20. I think it's really nice.
A little subtlety.
If you, I mean, we have all these great details, and these cameras are just so capable of such beautiful things. It's just so nice to see like the texture on the leaves, and to see the salt. And Priscilla spritzed this, and you can see it really nice in the highlight.
Oh yes, I can completely see that. It's one of the hardest, I think, most challenging things for photographers, that focus and all this control you have. It's definitely showing in that image.
Yeah, it's definitely a combination of the right equipment and these great tools to capture your subject with. We're shooting with an 85mm lens. I really like that lens, and we have the Canon mirrorless system that we just started shooting with, so that's been really good to us. But you can see here what the clarity does. If I were to drag it, it gets very dramatic. I think that's a bit much for me. I'd like to be a little more subtle. We keep this maybe under 20. Dehaze is a really interesting tool. If I were shooting with the light coming into my lens, I might get a really washy image like this, which is actually a bit trendy now.
The style.
It's stylistically, and it comes from those light lens flares that you get in the camera when you're facing the sun, or you're facing your light source.
In movies, we see it so much. 80s, 90s movies.
Yep. You can pull this as far as you'd like. If let's say that it's shot like this, we could correct like this. I have it corrected with a flag, so I'm not letting the light into my lens, but because I'm backlighting my subject, I am getting a lot of that. So when I want to shoot out in the field and I can't control that as much, or I'm shooting a model and it's really fast, I tend to have to use this dehaze filter a lot. It's one of my favorite tools. For today, I'm going to leave it probably around, let's go to 5, just because I think it deepens your shot and it's really beautiful. We turned our vibrance up to 14. I'm pretty happy with that.
We have people on the chat saying, shout out to Justin's set building.
Our set build team next door. So we have 2 studios. This one is our food studio with our offices, and the one next door is primarily our wood shop and for set build, and it's another about 6,000 square feet. So
Yeah, you have
He's
a great support system, by the
Yeah,
way.
we've got some really great people. I mean, we
Yeah.
started out, it was just Alexis and I, and we've since grown to we've got 8 employees and we've got about 20 contractors that are kind of permalance. So it's pretty
Sounds
great.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you
Sounds
to
abundant.
the clients that keep us going, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Takes a leap of faith to get started, right? And
Absolutely.
then it pays
Absolutely.
off.
So another thing that's great on these sliders is, you can kind of play with your curve a little bit, but Lightroom will break it down for you. So you have your highlights, your lights, your darks, and your shadows.
Mm.
You can see how that affects your curve as you adjust. I'm going to bring those darks up just a bit, and maybe let's see what happens if I bring my shadows up a bit too. Think maybe I'll do the shadows and then let's go back to where we were with the darks. I think that gives me a good amount of contrast. Before I start really playing with color, I should probably gray card my shot so that we have everything set appropriately for daylight, which is, these lights are 5200K, so I want to balance to that. This is probably pretty set from yesterday, if I'm guessing, but let's see.
We have Grace also saying amazing walkthrough. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Oh, thank you, Grace.
Yeah, I think it's so tricky, right? No, we don't often get to be on set and see the foundation that builds up an image, but then we see the quality of images and the detail, the detail orientation on the images. It really does require this level of almost physical exertion.
Yeah, it's definitely a finesse that you learn over time. And I mean, just to be fully transparent, one of the things that I was struggling with when you guys called to see if we would do this webcast was we don't do a lot of heavy lifting if we do our job right in camera, so I was like, are you sure you want us to see us? Because we're using the applications to do such small fine tuning. I mean, Alexis can tell you in a bit, there are definitely times where she has had to do some pretty heavy image manipulation and some head swapping, and she's done sky replacement before there was a sky replacement, and she's done color adjusting on
what a medal before there was a sky replacement.
I mean, that sky replacement that's in Lightroom and that's in Adobe now is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And she's going to show you a little bit of beta, the Photoshop beta, like that generative fill and stuff later. But before all of those things, it was just knowing how to do those things, firsthand but it's quite impressive. So
but I do see your point of view of being able, like, struggling with that with your current workflow and whether it fits into our viewpoint of how we usually see like other creators approach workflow. Like post editing is a big deal. I think post editing is a level of like recovery and also correcting and getting artistic, right, or styling and levels like that. But I think we welcome also this idea of like there are so many workflows out there and we want to see them all. So this is very demystifying, very insightful.
I think it is. I think it just is such a testament to the breadth that Adobe has, being able to use it in so many different ways. And for how many years has it been kind of a staple in all of these studios? Like we said, we were talking to we were talking to we did a little video another time, and we just feel that these programs are the backbone of our business. We couldn't operate without them.
We attended an event, and one of the questions was, how long have you been using Adobe? And there were pins for like 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. I was like, wow, can you imagine?
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Let me move this gray card and get to work shooting some handheld shots. And then we can go through and make some selections and see, which shots we like best. Then we'll batch edit and process, export, and move over to show Alexis, or to have Alexis show off some of the shots that she retouched yesterday. She's going to just kind of walk you through how she did that.
Awesome.
How do you feel? Good, Priscilla? Yep. All right. Will you move that gray card for me? It's funny, we had our creative product manager, Kat, she built this beautiful wall for us, and then I showed her the final shots, and there was maybe this, 1-inch piece of her wall that was visible, but I appreciate her nonetheless.
I'm sure it can be repurposed for different
Yeah.
concepts at some point. Yeah.
You just never know where you're gonna land, right? Got to be prepared.
I had a big question. Recently I bought a tether cable, but it wasn't orange. I was like, is this almost unforgivable, because you have to look out for the tether cable on shoot.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely a cable. It's there. But
Yep.
it's such a valuable connection to your camera, from camera to Lightroom.
Yes, absolutely. And none of that is flawless either, unfortunately. That's the hard part is we're working with equipment. We have good days and bad days for equipment.
Yeah.
Sometimes something's not operating properly, and we have to figure it out on the fly or in front of a client, and that made this a little less scary because we're used to that operationally.
Yeah, I think a level of expertise is being able to troubleshoot on the moment, right? Like just
Yes.
having those skill sets in the back of your brain to be able to problem solve as they come on board.
Agreed. Priscilla, any thoughts?
We have a question also on chat. Courtney, can you explain what you're doing with the gray card?
Yes, absolutely. So our gray card serves as a true gray. It's a middle gray, and it's going to allow us to balance the color in the set, so our whites are true whites.
Okay.
And there's no color cast.
Interesting.
Yes. And then we can make our decisions from a color standpoint after that, knowing where our true white stands.
Right. So it's essentially helping the camera detect the truest color down to the black, white, and gray, which is interesting. That's something we might forget about because we're so caught up by the color of the image.
Right. So let's say we want to fly with this one. You want to rotate it a little bit? Okay. So, we were talking about how it's so great to have this live view and to be able to shoot live, not just for the client, but also for our stylists. A lot of times we'll have Alexis on set, we'll have our retouchers on set, and she can say, hey, that's something that would be better fixed in camera. Let's not leave that for retouching. It'll save time. Or we'll do estimates for our client. And, we might have to make sacrifices somewhere, and it might be in retouching. So we'll say we're going to spend more time on set in camera, and the retouching is where we'll sacrifice. So then she can be on set to say, hey, this needs fixed now, this needs fixed, this can be fixed later, and she can make that decision. But without the live shooting, we wouldn't be able to do that.
I'm also curious, conceptually, I imagine you often have to like readjust the set and think about what kind of idea you're pushing forward a little bit with the color palette, or the choices of the leaves and the choices of props, textures. All of that kind of plays a role in photography in an invisible way. that
Yes.
we often forget about, but I think the greats like are very keen on kind of moving those details forward.
Yes. A lot of times, I was talking about Priscilla doing research. A lot of times we'll have stylists do research, just whichever, if it's a set build and they need to research, let's say, we did for a dental supply company, we shot a global campaign and we needed to style a home like we were in India. And so, here in the States, that might not be we may not have been to, my stylist hadn't been to India. And so he had to do quite a bit of research and, he did a lot of consulting just to be respectful and to do everything properly. But there's quite a bit of research that goes into conceptualizing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I imagine. But then at the same time, you save yourself some level of
oh, absolutely.
of income, just like you have all those resources within the studio, so that because you have to think about the business aspect of things, I'm sure.
Yes. So I can go through now, and let's say you all on Adobe Live are my client, and we are together flipping through our selects, and they say, I don't know, maybe somebody can call it out, tell me which one to stop on, and we'll select it. Let's see. I think after Priscilla adjusted the salt, we landed.
You're already reaching an international audience. Somebody asked if there's transmissions in Spanish. Hay transmisiones en español. Yeah, because this is looking really good. So there's definitely a lot of people from different parts of the world in the chat.
Oh, that's so great. Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty about visual arts. There's a level of language that we're crossing, right? So it's understood regardless to some degree.
So Alexis and I have consulted, and and we have chosen this shot, for today.
Okay.
So I'm gonna hit the 5 on my keyboard, and that lets me know that it is a 5-star rating.
All right.
And then maybe I'm also interested in this guy because it would be potentially my vertical option, and that's clients usually need a vert and a horizontal for different applications. So we try to accommodate and give them, both whenever we can. So let's say that's also a 5-star rating. So if you go down to this filter bar here, this says filters off. There's a lot of different, you can filter by camera info. Let's say I would assume, I haven't done it in Lightroom, but I would assume that there's a way to filter by your metadata. It looks like, then camera info, I guess, would be like, your lenses and probably your aperture and shutter speed. I'm going to filter by rated because I just rated those 2 5 stars. So I have down here in my, I'll make this a little bigger. I have this shot and this shot, and these are my selects. Make this one a little smaller so I can see what's happening. And
that looks great.
Thank you.
I can completely see why you don't need to do so much post editing.
Well, it's fun, the stuff that she does do.
Yeah.
So what I'll do now is I'll go in and I'm going to do my adjustments to this shot, my color adjustments, now that, right before we shot, we did our white balance. So now I'll go in and I'll say, okay, so my reds, obviously these, maybe Priscilla had mentioned that she wants them to be a little more magenta. So I'm going to play with the hue of this a little bit, and you can see how it's really changing. I'm pointing like you can see what I'm pointing at. I don't know. I'm new here. You can see how it's adjusting those reds. The dragon fruit and the prickly pear are similar
also
colors.
yeah.
So we're getting a little more magenta here, which is fun. And let's say I felt like I wanted to saturate that more, which I actually, I don't. I feel like it's pretty good. But let's go to the magentas and turn them down, and I can show you like what that does. Actually, I guess that's pulling the reds. So, you know, I just drain the color from it. In turn, I can also turn the color up. And maybe I will just a little bit. So let's go to 10. It's a nice round number. Luminance, and I'm just showing you on the same channel so that you can see how it affects everything. This is going to be how much light you add into that color. So maybe we have some cocktail clients that want us to only use the actual ingredients. And sometimes that makes it really difficult to shoot the product because it may be very dense or it may not be dense enough. You know, we may have a bottle of wine that is, let's say it's a Chardonnay, but it's reading really dark. And we want to add in a little bit of color or a little bit of light behind it. So then we can amp up that yellow. In this case, it's obviously that magenta, so that it looks a little more golden and a little more interesting. And that's just how you would do those things kind of selectively. And I think, you know, these greens would benefit from a little light boost too. So let's pop those a little bit. I'm getting really punchy with this whole thing here. See, and then maybe we want to saturate our greens a little bit too. Okay, so let's say, you know, I feel really good about that. And I'm moving in over to our other shot now, and you can see if I were to pull those up side by side here. I guess that's my before and after. Let's just go back to here. You can see how different that is. So like we did before, if I want to copy this, I'm going to Shift Command C. This gives you all of your copy settings. So it's kind of like a copy clipboard. I didn't do any healing. I didn't do any cropping, but if I had the camera on a tripod and I were to have done healing and cropping, I could apply it to all of my shots that I selected and everything would apply to the same exact spot. That's not really conducive to this workflow because I was hand holding. So if I were to crop a horizontal, it wouldn't look the same. Or if I were to heal something on the drink, it would end up healing like in the top corner on the next shot. So that's not something that is, you know, readily available.
But you can choose which ones go forward, and
you absolutely can.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
so we'll copy those
manually.
Yep. And then we'll apply by Command Shift V. We'll apply. So then
we have Wade saying, I always love when you don't have to fix it in post and really appreciate the front end work to get a shot.
This is so nice to hear. Thank you, Wade. Okay, so let's say Alexis wants this. She wants this shot here. I'm going to export it. So I'll file export. I get this export bar here. You can really control your specifics. So I want to export this to a specific folder. I want to choose this folder. So I put, we did a pink drink folder here. This is our session, our Lightroom session. I'm going to choose that, and that's where it's going to go. It's going to make a separate folder, a subfolder. File naming, I want to keep the same. So I'm not messing with that because I already did that on the front end so that I didn't have to do it on the back end. No video treatment. File settings. Alexis wants a large file. I'm not going to give her a 16-bit. I'm just going to give her an 8-bit this time. But I do want to give her an uncompressed TIFF because it'll give her more options in Photoshop. We're going to assume that this is going to be used for screens. So we're going to keep it as a sRGB. And then I like to export specifically because Alexis always asks me for it, an 18 we do, let's say we're doing 1200 pixels. Does that sound good to you? 1200 pixels on the long end for this one. Or we can do pixels per centimeter. We're going to go pixels per inch. We want to keep it at 300. Let's say we want to print. I'm not going to do any output sharpening. The metadata, you can choose what you're doing. If you only want to export the copyright, we set all of this up earlier too. So we want to do all metadata, you know, especially if you take the time to put it all in there, you want it in there.
So it includes all the details that you set up in the beginning,
yes.
all that information.
Yes. There is a watermark option. If you weren't doing TIFFs and you were doing small JPEGs to export for your client for like a,
just preview,
let's say like a preview or something, you could do a watermark option. I picked the SP. You can edit those. Let's see. So salt paper here, you can size it. And you just pick your picture and you import it. So your opacity, you can change. I like to do them really lightly. You could also do words and just put proof. It gives you the option. That would be up here, text options, image options, choose if you had, you know, another logo or something you wanted to use. It's very intuitive.
Yeah. And you just have that set up like
yep,
for everything so that you can just turn it on.
It's set up and ready to go. And you can make it fit, or you can fill the frame with it if it were a picture or a graphic. This is what I've chosen. I've chosen to anchor it in the center because I feel like that's just the best spot for it, right in the middle. No one can steal it or swipe it. And save those as a preset. I've already done that, so I'm just going to X out. And then I would export this, and I told it to open in Finder when I was done. So, you know, there's my shot with that watermark. I have already passed these over to Alexis, so I will spare you the airdropping tutorial because I'm pretty sure you probably all know that. I'm wondering though if anyone has any other questions before I hand things off to post-production.
No questions, but we do have a lot of comments. It says we have Paco saying this is looking awesome. Totally get how the post-production process can be minimum with this much attention to detail during the shoot. It says it is an interesting workflow. We have Reber saying always know where your snacks are because you were talking about the food. And then Greg is saying great work, Priscilla.
Awesome. Thank you guys. Well, I guess we can go on over to
Can I just read the last one that just came up? Courtney for President 2024.
That's so funny.
So that's it. You're set.
I don't know that I'm quite qualified for that, but I appreciate the vote of confidence. Well, okay, so thank you for watching that portion of things. Alexis is going to show you some minor adjustments in Photoshop, and then she's going to take you through some generative fill options for creating a banner for a client or a skyscraper ad for a client out of the same shot that we just took, because obviously this is not the right dimensions. So Adobe has made these great tools to allow us to do that without editing a bunch of extra shots. So awesome. I guess we can switch over.
So we'll see the practical use of this image with Alexis in Photoshop. Cool.
Hello, I'm Alexis, the studio and post-production manager at Salt Paper Studio.
Hi, Alexis.
Okay, so here I will start out. I'll show you first. I have everything on a separate layer, and I have all of my files grouped.
Gotta stay organized.
Yes, so always work non-destructively. Don't ever work on the background layer here.
Yeah.
You can
Unless
see
you're
I'll
at the very
toggle.
end, I guess,
Yes,
once you're
at the
ready
very
to commit.
end, once you're done. I'll toggle off. This is the before and this is the after.
I see.
And I have everything here labeled and very organized. And I'll just kind of click through each one. So here I started out with just removing dust in certain areas. And then I went on to remove highlights. And how I did that was using a combination of the stamp tool and also the spot heal brush.
The spot healing brush, that's your choice. Yeah, there's so many healing brushes. I was really curious to see which one artists tend to go for.
There are a lot. And for small areas that have little spots of dust like this, the spot healing remove is probably my favorite.
Okay.
So what I'll do there is make a new empty layer right here. And I'll make sure that the layer type is set to normal and that it's sampling all layers. And the reason why I wanted to sample all layers is so that it'll be pulling from this background layer below it. So once I do that, I'll choose the spot healing brush and then I'll start just removing dust.
Dust and like scratches, it looks like, on the glass, especially with glass, right? It could be fingerprints by the end of it that you didn't notice.
Yes.
Even though there's a lot of detail that went into the setup, I can, things like this, post editing is like almost like a second chance to figure things out.
Yeah, or areas where, we couldn't remove this highlight here. For larger areas like that, I would use the clone stamp tool.
Okay.
So you can click S and it'll go to your stamp tool.
Is that more because we don't want to show that there was artificial lighting involved?
For
because we're
this one,
exuding
it's
this
just
kind of natural ambience.
For this one, it's because it's just kind of in the center of the drink. It's kind of where it's hitting. If it was maybe over to the left some, it wouldn't be as distracting.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's very center focused.
And then here you can see on my next layer, I retouched here on the top of the drink. And then I retouched some of the leaves. And with those, I also used the clone stamp tool. So I can just go through those. And this is before, and this is after.
Yeah, that extra TLC just to get those details right. And especially when it comes to like props that are plants, because they tend to wilt as you're working with them. Yeah.
Or they,
those little bruises.
They come a little brown or something you can't control.
Yeah.
And then here on the left side of the frame where the stucco is, the shadow is doing this kind of purple fringing. So to remove that, I did a black and white adjustment instead of desaturating, and I made a mask layer. So I can show you from scratch how I did that. So down here, you'll create a black and white layer. And you'll see right now the whole thing is black and white.
Okay.
But what I want is to go on the mask here so that it's only affecting the stucco. And to do that, I will fill it with black. And what that means is the black is hiding the layer adjustments.
Right.
And anything in white will reveal it.
Mm-hmm.
So to do that, you can change your brush to white and just start brushing. And if you want to be more precise, you can pen tool out this whole area and then fill it with white. But quickly, I'm just going to do this.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, I would say the mask tool and the pen tool are my two favorite tools. So if anyone wants to drop their favorite tools in the comments, feel free.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the mask tool has to be, I don't know, something that crosses over to anything that I'm attempting to do, just to be on the safe zone and being able to reveal things that I want and hide things that I don't want very carefully. So I can see the mask tool being a favorite for sure.
Yes, and one of the reasons why I love it so much is because it's better than erasing. If you were to erase on a layer, you can't get that back. But with the mask, you can, you know, say I went too far over here and I accidentally painted some of that. Now I can switch to the black and remove it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good scenario. Oliver says my favorite tool is undo.
Yep, Command Z.
Yeah, the chat is always a little cheeky. Love a good magnetic lasso. Yeah, that too. Yeah, making selection or anything that makes things faster, accurate, like precision, and that I can make mistakes, that I can be spending an hour and be like, oh no, but I made a mistake, and I can maybe because undo doesn't go that far off. I can work with the history panel, but with the masking tool, I think it's no big deal. You don't have to go that far off. You just bring it back.
So you can see this is removing it. And then when I switch to white, it's filling back in that layer mask. Now I've added the black and white here to desaturate that, but it's removing too much of the warmth from the stucco. So what I did was made a selective layer and I brought back in some of that warmth on the whites. And how I did that was in selective colors. I choose the whites, a mix of the whites and the neutrals. And I added some yellow. And then if it was kind of too of a green reading yellow, I removed some of the magenta. You can see if I go really far with it.
Is that trying to emulate that ambient light?
I was trying to just add back in some warmth.
So it's almost like pure yellow, not, and when you said green reading yellow, it's a little too stylized.
Yes, and two, you know, right now we're at 40% opacity. You're at 100, it's a bit too much. But being able to just add in a little subtle warmth is really nice.
Yeah, I think it always kind of gives it that's, I don't know, that sensibility of you're just happy, this is a happy ambience. Although when you go the opposite way, something bluer, it feels like demure, mysterious, and kind of like late night cocktail hour.
Definitely.
The opposite. Yeah.
And another thing I did was dodge by using curves.
Okay.
And what I did there, create a new one. So I created a new curve adjustment layer.
The dot
then
is
I just-
focusing on those highlights essentially
Mhm.
and
I brought it
bringing-
up here, but as you can see, it's affecting the whole image. So
Oh,
that's
I
why we're
see.
going to use our mask here again. And I'm going to fill the whole thing with black. So now you can't see it. And then I will paint in with white where I want to kind of dodge a little bit. And another thing too with masking, sometimes it's hard to see what you're masking, as you can see now. So what you'll do is you can hit the backslash key on your keyboard and you see it's
Okay.
red,
Right. All the selections.
but you can't see through it. So what you would do is right click, mask options, and go to 50%.
Mhm. At some point, I
now-
did that and I had no
Mhm.
idea I had that setting.
Yeah,
But
it's awesome.
that's how you get it. Okay.
Yep, and you can turn it off and on with the backslash key. And now you can see what I'm doing.
Where you're brushing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because there's subtle changes, but they add up
Yep.
as you're
Just
brushing.
dodging it a little bit with the curves.
Hi, Alessandra. For those of you joining us, we are working with the team at Salt Pepper Studios to edit a cocktail hour photograph from the very, very start, actually, to now the post editing in Photoshop. So if you didn't get to catch this and you're just joining us, definitely watch the restream on our social channels on YouTube, on Behance, or on Instagram, and watch it at your own pace. This is definitely one to take in slowly because there's just so much good information in here.
Yeah, and we also on our Salt Paper Studio Instagram, we share a lot of our behind the scenes, and sometimes I'll do screen recordings of the retouching process, and you can watch it on there.
Oh, that's awesome. Nice. So really good resources for anybody who's learning, but also it's very insightful to see a different workflow. It has been for me. Just being able to see different workflows gives you different ideas of how to approach your own photography.
So here I've moved on to the horizontal image, and this is the before and after. And I did a lot of the similar editing here. But one thing that I added that was different was I added leaves. So in this shot, she moved to a different angle and this black bucket from the plant is showing. So I wanted to remove that. And what I did was I took leaves from this image and I pasted it here. And then I used the mask again to kind of just add a smaller area.
So many situations for the mask.
Yep.
So many opportunities.
You can see I'll bring it down to 50%.
Lysandra says that drink looks amazing. I want some, and I know it's Monday.
It looks delicious.
Yeah.
And two, another thing I did was when the vibrancy was increased in the image, it added this kind of halo effect to that shape. So I just kind of stamp tooled that so it was a little softer.
Yeah, I do see that. Yeah, so the masking helps it blend together.
And now, so let's say I'm done with editing both of these. What I'll do is I'll open them up in Photoshop Beta. Okay, so I'm in Photoshop Beta now.
Okay.
And let's say we had our vertical image, but we needed, let's see, a 16:9 crop for a story or some kind of social need. But what if I didn't want to crop off all of this? So
Yeah,
what
we
I'm
want
going
to
to do
give.
is use the generative fill to add some to the top. So first
Yeah, I love the generative fill. Generative expand is so cool
I
too.
love it too. I would flatten the whole image first. Let's see, let's change the size. Width to 9 inches. Okay, so it's 13.4 and I want it to be 16 inches tall. So I'll go to the canvas size. Make it 16. And I want to add to the top. So I'll start at the bottom, and these arrows mean it's expanding up.
Upwards, yeah.
And I'll select this area.
So now you're basically you increase that canvas size, not the photo yet.
Yep. And then we will just fill it and see what it does here.
It's always a mystery, right?
It is. It could be anything.
But it's still it's going to be similar
That's,
because it's taking it
yeah,
into
that's
context.
pretty close. We'll tap through and see which one we like best.
Okay. That's curious. So instead
This
of going
one's
into the
kinda close.
properties, you just have those two arrows in the contextual
Mhm.
bar. I see that. I often go to
Yes.
the properties.
And you can, yep, you can scroll down here and see the different ones. So you can see here, or you can see over here.
You have like 4 that are generated so far. Yeah, they all look very close to the ambient lighting, the plant of choice that you have in the background. It's so curious. I'm curious actually, what would you do to, or what are you looking for when you choose the final one out of those?
So with this one,
Composition.
I mean, these aren't really reading correct.
Yeah.
So with, let's see, this one here, I like that it added this shadow, but this shape over here
Yeah.
is getting a little odd.
Right.
But this one, it kind of corrected it there.
Is it helping you? Is it going to give you a little bit more work because you're going to have to correct some of those spots? But then you have like some options that are better than others.
Yeah, this one looks pretty good. So for that one, it's size 16 by 9 for some kind of social post.
Right. Try to give this photo as much life as possible. So
And
much
then for
work went
the
into it.
horizontal, say you need a banner for your website. And
Okay.
typically those are really skinny, wide horizontal crop.
Long, yeah, they're 1920 on the wide end.
Yeah.
Donna's loving this. Like so convenient if you need to add room for text also. Yeah, I think that's
definitely
very ideal. You're reading our minds here for sure.
Okay, so let's see. So I've widened these. So I'm going to select this left area first, Generative Fill, and Generate. Oh, wow. Okay. So let's click through. Oh, that's interesting what it did on the left side.
Yeah, I definitely found myself approaching the expansion, because now they have generative expand, but from time to time, like approaching each side gives me more control on what the generated results are going to be. So you don't do it all at once, almost.
Yeah, sometimes selecting just a smaller area, it seems like it just understands what it's doing. And then I'll select this right side. Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious if you can push the cocktail all the way to the left, and so the right is predominantly leaves. That could be cool too. So it's not so much concrete on the left hand side.
So much on, yeah, yeah. So one thing I could do,
There's so much like room to play with the composition at this point, which is so interesting.
yeah, you have more space. So what I could do is select this left side and type add palm leaves. And then let's see what it does there to kind of add more interest.
So instead of just hitting generate, you're placing a prompt, a request. Oh, cool.
So that one's kind of cool. It's, you can tell it's kind of pulling from what's in the image back
Yeah,
here.
that one's closer to that foliage
Mhm.
than the other ones. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in this space where I'll just try to generate and generate and generate until something completely different out of the boundaries of what I thought I could get comes up. It's
Oh,
almost
yeah.
like a lot of trial and error.
And sometimes I even hit it a second time to see what else it gives me from the same prompt.
Yeah. And just refining that prompt. And we have about 10 minutes left, by the way. So anybody
Okay.
on the chat who wants to ask some final questions on post editing, leave some comments. Definitely check out the chat also for a lot of really cool resources we've dropped in throughout the stream. This is your chance. This has been really cool already, Alexis. I can see the process in itself is really, the post editing process is still kind of more involved when you consider the different places it's going to go to.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that was cool. But you know, it's so interesting because all the foliage is still very Caribbean,
Oh,
still
I
under
know,
that category.
And another thing with adding something here, you want to be pretty descriptive with what you want. For example, I tested this and typed add palm and it added a hand. So
Oh yes, that happened
yeah,
to me.
yep,
That's funny.
adding the word
A
leaves
palm,
to
an
it.
actual palm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that does make sense why I would
Yep.
confuse that. Yeah, that's so funny. The
So here we
Chronicles
have,
of Generative Fill.
yep. Here's our banner and then our 16:9 expanded.
Wow. So you have some variety now. It's completely different. You can include it in different places. How would you export these images? Because I know that the original one was really big, right? Because it's potentially made for print as opposed to like web.
Yes. So if this was for print, I would still flatten the whole image. And I would want to keep it fairly big for print. If it's for web, I would most likely go here, export, save for web legacy.
Yeah, this usually takes a little bit. Yeah.
And what that'll let you do is change the image size and make it a smaller image for web. And make sure that on your website, it's loading properly and the page doesn't take too long.
Right. So you're optimizing it for web specifically. So it's compressed. You can still watch out for the details, but you don't have like that long loading time whenever you step into sites that just take kind of a while and it's not your internet.
Yes, yes. But I will still always save out a TIFF file so that it saves these layers so that I can go back and make edits on the large uncompressed file.
I don't really understand this message, but I think Robert is also a fan of Generative Fill. Great to
Awesome.
delete window reflexes. Okay. And it's so convenient, says Donna.
It is.
Great. And as we get close to wrapping up here, I'd love to invite Courtney back into the chat to be able to say our final thoughts on this entire wonderful workflow that we just got an insider view on.
I wonder if I can just slide in with you. Can we? I don't know if they'll see us both because they have a little square.
Maybe they can squeeze in.
Can you see
here.
both of us?
Yeah,
you
there
see
you
us?
go. That's
Can
awesome.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so this has been really, really interesting to see from almost like the inception of your concept of just setting everything up. And I'm curious if you have some words of encouragement for artists who are or photographers who are entering this particular line of the industry in photography.
Run. Just kidding. No, it's great.
Save your money.
We love, I mean, I can't speak for you, but I think you love what you do. I love what
definitely.
I do. I genuinely don't feel like I'm working when I come to work every day. We're really lucky to have some really great people that we both learn from every day working with us. I mean, we've got a crew of talented photographers and stylists and set builders and retouchers.
Everyone.
And I mean, there are retouchers that you hire for jobs just because the
Yes, and I love
quantity,
them.
and she loves them and she learns from them. You know, and they're always sharing and swapping tricks. Same with my photographers and I with light. It's a really cool community that we have around us. And thanks for, you know, inviting us to be a part of your community. This is really cool.
Yeah, can you expand on those resources you mentioned on your website? Do you often like sharing the process, or you find it helpful for your own almost almanac of seeing how your business develops?
Yeah, do you mean like our like Instagram and things like that?
Oh, on your website, the post processing, that time lapse, I think Alexis mentioned.
Yeah, so we actually started to do, we got a huge, I would say pretty big for us following on Instagram when we started to show behind the scenes, and one of our videos went viral. It was actually Priscilla doing some cinnamon toast crunch donut campaign with Krispy Kreme, and it was
it would be the cinnamon.
Yeah, it was pretty
donuts.
Cool. And you know, there were multiple reasons that was viral, but well, you can see for yourself. But we you know, since Alexis has been doing some screen recordings of her workflow, and we speed them up, and we do a lot of reels with our set builds and behind the scenes, so you can see the entire process. And I think it's just been super interesting for people to have those snippets right in front of them that are, you know, what, like 5 seconds long, maybe 10 seconds long at most. Cut to some fun music, and just reels have been super cool for us to
it's a very
dive
condensed
into.
version of the actual process, just much longer. That's so curious. And as far as where we can reach you more frequently on socials and
so we have a you know, our Instagram is probably our primary, and that's Salt Paper Studio on Instagram, and then saltpaperstudio.com is our website. So we're always updating it and always putting new things and new projects on there. And you can see our client list. And if you have any questions, we have our contact information there. You know, we love when people reach out with questions. So
yeah, I'll probably be reaching out with questions. I
Call
feel like I
us.
learned so much. Yeah, it's very affirming to see a different workflow that works for a larger business. And you know, it has continuously worked, and it works for a large team also, because we're all striving for developing our skill sets. And I think that really helps, and just like giving us that viewpoint is really helpful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
This was a lot of fun, and I hope we made you all thirsty, and you can just wait until 5 o'clock your time for your we're gonna have a boost in margarita sales today.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds great. All right. Thank you, Courtney, and thank you, Alexis. Thank you to
Thank
your
you. Thank
entire
you guys
team.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And a final for me, thanks everyone for being part of this amazing session today, participating on the chat, and everyone who showed up and asked all the questions. Stay tuned and join Creative Andrew Hockrattle, and he's going to be showing us how to transform his photos into works of art, displacement maps, cool things like blending modes, gradient maps, and so much more. So thank you again, Courtney. Thank you again to the team, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.